Okay, so this video is going to serve as our vertical angles with respect to algebraic reasoning video. So this is our day 6 of Unit 1 in geometry video, basically. And we're just going to work through a few examples. Okay, so here um, we're being asked to calculate the value of x. And that's going to be fairly simple to do because we know angle A and B are supplementary. Adjacent angles on a set of vertical angles like we have here, adjacent angles are always supplementary. And what's more, they form a linear pair, right? So we should already know from earlier on in this class. But I digress. So that simply means x plus 5 plus 130 should be equal to 180, right? So we can go ahead and drop the parentheses, don't need them, but we always want to use them when we're plugging in. So this is simply angle A plus angle B, right? And all we got to do is combine like terms. So we've got x plus 135 is equal to 180. Then we subtract from both sides by 135, and we get that x is equal to 45, right? So that means angle A is 45 plus 5. So that means this angle here is a 50-degree angle, which makes sense because 50 plus 130 has to be 180. And that tells us that angle D must also be 50, and angle C must also be 130. And if we had to explain either or, right? Well, you know, opposite angles here are going to be congruent, or we could even go so far as to say, adjacent angles here are supplementary, 50 plus 130, right? Or you could use the same argument, opposite angles are congruent. Okay, so moving on, we have another example where we have angles labeled as functions of x. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit different, but not really. So looking at this, if we were going to find x, well, we need to latch on to something that we know, right? So up here, this function of x, well, we know a plus b are a linear pair. A plus b is going to have to be supplementary because they're adjacent angles on a set of vertical angles. So that means 5x plus b equals 180. But that doesn't help us because we have, this is going to be unsolvable because we have two variables, right? So that's completely useless. Okay, so we're not going to go that route. But if we look at angles E and F, we see they both are functions of x, which means 6x plus 3x, right? That's another linear pair. That's, a pair of adjacent angles. That means 6x plus 3x are supplementary. Okay, so combine like terms. 9x is going to be equal to 180. Divide by 9 on both sides. We know x is 20. And from that, we can deduce the measure of the rest of the angles. So 20 times 5, this guy is 100 degrees. Opposite angles are congruent. This guy is also 100 degrees. That means this guy has to be 80 degrees because 100 plus 80 is 180. And opposite angles, again, are congruent. Okay, so then we just keep applying that same logic. We know x here is equal to 20, so 6 times 20 is 120. Opposite angles are also going to always be congruent. And adjacent angles are going to be supplementary, so that means we need 60 degrees here, right? And 3 times 20 is 60 either way, and opposite angles are congruent again. Okay, so now we've got a little bit uglier of an example. Okay, so looking at this, same idea, but we're told to assume lines M and N are parallel. Okay, so that means a number of things. That means angle A and E are congruent, right? Because all the corresponding angles will be congruent. That means angles A and H will be congruent because alternate exterior angles will be congruent. That means D and E will be congruent. Alternate interior angles are congruent. And I mean, we can just go on and on and on. But none of that really matters right now because we have a linear pair. These two adjacent angles, right, A and B, they must be equal to 180 when we add them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That's going to be the easiest way to go. Okay, now, I always tell you guys, if we have a fraction, we should go ahead and get rid of it by multiplying by its denominator. And that's precisely what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides of the equation. So on the right, this becomes 540. Here on the left, I have to distribute to here and to here. Okay, this 3 and this 3 here, they're inverses, so that gives us just x, because we would end up with 3 times x over 3, right? Or 3x over 3. Okay, so you see where we get just an x left over, quote unquote, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 3 into here now. 3x minus 120 plus 12, 132. Okay, now I'm just going to start combining like terms. So here, this becomes 4x. And then I'm going to do plus 132 to get it over here with this 540. And that's going to give me 672. Okay, and then we simply have to divide that by 4. So 672 divided by 4, that gives me 168 for x. Okay, so now let's go ahead and answer number 2. So we know x is equal to 168. So we can easily figure everything else out. So 168 minus 44, that gives me 124 degrees, right? 168 divided by 3 gives me 56. Okay, and we can check our work. 124 plus 56 are in fact equal to 180. Opposite angles are congruent. Oops, what's the matter with me? Okay, and because M and N are parallel, right? If this guy is 124, that means this guy here is also 124. If this guy here is 56, that means this guy here is also 56. And we just follow the whole pattern of opposite angles are congruent, right? And we're good to go. Okay, so that does it for this video. Just a little bit of algebraic reasoning mixed in with our geometry and our axiomatic logic associated therein as far as it goes with lines and transversals. So if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to shoot me an email. Otherwise, goodbye.